Hey now, and welcome to Quantum Drive. I'm Rob.
I'm Katie.
And our ongoing mission is to discuss every episode of the Orville. Except sometimes we break off from our usual mission and we take side missions in which we interview people from the Orville itself. In this episode, we're going to be talking to Lex Cassar, the senior concept designer on the Orville. This was a great interview, Katie.
This is my first interview ever, just so everybody's aware, but I had so much fun, and I hope and cannot wait to do more things like this.
Yeah, this was amazing. We could have gone hours with Lex easily. Mm-hmm. He's a very talkative guy in the best possible way. So we hit a lot of tangents and stuff and talk about some of the things he specifically worked on, his inspirations, a little bit of his history in being an artist and a fan of sci-fi. So we covered a lot of topics in a little bit of time. So I hope everyone enjoys this. Also, I should warn people just up front, because we always say this during interview episodes, that even though our season discussions, our episode discussions, we never spoil things ahead. There are things we talk about in this episode where if you are not caught up all the way through season 2 of the Orville, it will spoil some things for you. So just be aware of that. If you're not completely caught up, then you might want to save this episode for later.
Yeah, spoiler alerts for 100%. Just be aware.
But here it is. Enjoy our talk with Lex Cassar. So let's hop right into it then. So obviously, you came in on what, season 2?
Yeah, right at the beginning of season 2, right before season 2 started.
Okay, and how long? This is like totally off topic of the Orville, I guess. But if we're jumping back to like Little Lex, what was the
Little Lex?
Little Lex. What was the thing that kind of piqued your interest in art to begin with?
I always just enjoyed drawing. Like if I want to go all the way back to like my earliest memories, really just smashing stuff together, whether it's crayons, pencils, building stuff. I just like creating, right? I like to make stuff.
Yeah.
Simple as that. That's where that came from. The drive to just build things, that's the other thing, not even just art. Like, I have other interests outside of what is considered art that I still, I guess, consider art. Mm-hmm. I think art is not a broad enough term, to be honest, even though it's used as a broad term. Sure. I think engineers can be artists. I think scientists can be artists in their own way. Like, art is creative thinking, and creative thinking applies to everything. But like, it's also that urge to create something, not just to be creative, to create something. So I think engineers and designers and all that as well. So I like building like stuff. I built myself like a dune buggy and stuff like that. Like, I love that kind of thing. So just that's a long-winded answer to say I like to make stuff.
Yeah.
Don't we all? When you're scribbling and kind of like getting into art in the beginning as a kid, I know there's a point that comes along where you're like, I'm just drawing this thing for a while now. Do you remember what that like initial thing was for you? Like, after all the doodles and the sketches, you were like, "Ooh, I like the way that looks, and I want to draw like that."
I actually never got that. I'm a bit of a scatterbrain. So for me, my struggle is always trying to not become the jack of all trades, master of none.
Okay.
Right? My interests are wide and varied. Like, I love to do a lot of things. My biggest problem with life is that I don't feel like I have enough time. That's the truth. Don't have enough time, and don't have enough time to commit to certain things. Like, if I could do everything, I would. I mean, my interests are ridiculous. They are a long, crazy list, and none of them make sense between each other, but that's me. Yeah. So I never was like, oh, I'm just going to draw this. I guess even though I got really heavy into sci-fi and fantasy, I still really enjoyed, even as a kid, because my parents took me to a lot of art galleries and stuff, I still enjoyed modern art or portraiture and anatomy, if we're just going to talk art. Mm-hmm. So like, for me, it was never one genre, one theme, one kind of material. It was always everything, right? So everything from pop art to like interpretive dance, like literally, like I loved all of it, and I still do. So does that answer the question?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Is there a thing? So you mentioned you have a ton of interests out there. Is there something that is like way out on the like perimeter of like, this is a thing I'm really, really into, but no one would ever think this is a thing I'm really, really into?
I'm currently listening to a lot of, oh my God, what's the name of that band? Let me look it up right now. It's It's a very odd band. Very odd. Very, very on the outside skirts of things. The best way to describe them is like Victorian vaudeville doomsayers. It makes...
How do you find a band like that?
How don't you? No,
Yeah.
Well, okay, so the set designer, our assistant art director, Kit Stolen, he's the guy that's responsible for a lot of the interiors that you see.
Okay.
So pretty much like the interior of the Orville and any interior set is pretty much Kit. Kit's the man. He doesn't get a lot of recognition, unfortunately. Not from our end, it's just he doesn't have much of a social media presence. And Kit, if you're listening, yes, I'm going to get you on ArtStation. It's going to happen. But he's fantastic. He's amazing. And we go back and forth over just a bunch of like really niche things because that's who we are. Mm-hmm. So through him, I found out about, I've got the band. It's going to come up. It's almost in my hands. In fact, if you're going to listen to a song by these guys, you want to listen to The Crack of Doom, and that's the Tiger Lilies. That's the name of the band. Lilies. Yeah, and get ready. It's nothing you've heard before. It's as simple as that.
I'm writing this down.
It's okay. We're recording this.
The band, the Tiger Lilies, and the song is Crack of Doom is in my playlist right now, and it's even better if you watch them on YouTube.
Yeah,
because oh boy,
absolutely will do.
It just adds to the experience. They did a whole musical experience that was all H.P. Lovecraft based, so that should tell you something about.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
That's the kind of tangent that you probably didn't expect we'd be talking about tonight.
Oh, dude, watch out, man. I'm okay with tangents. I'll rant forever if you're not careful.
So you talked about, too, a little bit your history of getting into sci-fi and geeky things with your art and stuff like that. What were some of the initial like fandoms that you latched onto? Oh,
I mean, some, really general ones like Star Wars, of course. Star Trek, of course, like big into both of those. Always loved both of them. Never understood the hate or the war between them.
Same.
Always thought that was ridiculous.
Yeah, also. Especially
considering one takes place in a galaxy far, far, far away. Like, come on. They could be in the same universe. Why are we doing this? Anyways, so those are the easy ones for sci-fi. Things like Aliens was really big into Aliens, especially as growing up in the 80s and 90s with all the Aliens vs. Predator comics from Dark Horse and all that, where they really fleshed it out and it was so good, and no movie's been able to do that. But also fantasy, big fantasy fan, of course. Lord of the Rings, what a great book. It always felt more like you were reading an actual history than you were reading fantasy novels. So that's that too. And yeah, I mean, just it keeps going. Like those are the easy ones. Things that are a little bit more particular are things like I was a big anime fan growing up too as well. So, but never like anything that was Dragon Ball, like nothing that was too over the top.
Okay.
Like I'm always a bit of a, you got to suspend my disbelief and you got to work for it a little bit kind of guy.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not just ready to turn my brain off. I'm bad at that actually. And it kind of sucks sometimes because there's some things people enjoy. They're like, wasn't that fun? I'm like, well,
let's talk about a few
Why
flaws.
weren't they wearing helmets? It was a firefight. They should be wearing helmets. It's like, Lex, really? It's like, sorry, man. What do you want from me? So stuff like that. But the original Battle Angel, the actual graphic novels.
Yeah. Okay.
Love those. I thought the movie was good. But
it surprised me that it was pretty good. Yeah,
it was good. It's the shame with Battle Angel is that it's such a long, beautiful story arc, and each book matters. Mm-hmm. That I always felt the only way you're going to do that is if you're going to do it in a miniseries, a la Game of Thrones, because it really has that much story to tell, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. Mainly because there's been a lot of things that have ripped off Battle Angel since it first came out. Mm-hmm. So everyone goes to see the movie and they're like, well, that's like this. It's like, well, actually, that stole from it. But yeah, what are you going to do?
That was a big thing with when the Shannara Chronicles came out on TV. I talked to the author of those books before, and a lot of fantasy stuff kind of took a nod from those stories. And I asked him flat out, like, are you worried that people are going to look at you as a thief of these concepts or just borrowing, and you're the originator though? And he was like, I'm not worried. Like, it's all just out there, man. Like,
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do? That happens so much in this industry, right? Whether it's film, television, whatever, comic books, entertainment in general, right? Video games, you have a story to tell. And if your story is taking a certain amount of time and someone gets to elements of your story before you're done, do you just stop? I mean, you can't. You got to continue. You got to try and still tell your story.
Yeah.
Because there's probably nothing worse than committing a chunk of time to something and then just giving up on it. That's my Like just hearing that makes me want to like puke. Because I might have some of my own personal projects that I've been working on where it's like, oh, that's kind of like this now. Shit. But what are you going to do, man? You got to.
But it's still, even if there's something out there that's like the thing you're doing, it's not the thing you're doing. And it's missing your voice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the zeitgeist, right? You got to always like just kind of accept the fact that the zeitgeist of the human race, the fact that if you've grown up in a certain time, there's other people thinking and experiencing all the same things you are. So it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Got to deal with it.
In terms of Trek, is there a Trek that you identify the most with? Or you consider your Trek?
Ooh, that's a good question. Damn. How dare you, sir? Put me on the spot like that. I don't feel exposed so much as like, I better answer that right or I'll never sleep. God, jeez. Okay, well, I could say that the one that I gravitated to when I was younger was TNG. Mm-hmm. Because even though I'd watched the original series, Next Gen was my series, right? Really loved DS9 because I loved that it still felt like it was in the Next Generation universe, but we got to see more outside of the Federation. And I love DS9 for that. I mean, I really do. DS9 had such a beautiful cast of characters. Come on. And the way that they all got to tell their stories and all got to take the spotlight was great. I think DS9 kind of gets kicked around a little bit by some people, and some people love it. I think I'm on the love it side because it really fleshed out the universe of Star Trek. Because up until that point, we'd really just seen the Enterprise and its crew. Mm-hmm. And they might go here, they might visit here, but really it's the Enterprise and their crew. Where Deep Space Nine became about Star Trek as a whole. And that's so cool. So I might have to say DS9. Ooh,
I feel like DS9 is getting the love now that it never really got when it was on. I mean, a lot of people that went from TNG to DS9 did love it just because it was the same universe and we had the crossover characters and stuff. But it's getting all that due now, which is odd.
But it's interesting because for me, it's like I couldn't love DS9, I think, as much as I did, though, without TNG. So for me, honestly, like I know they are separate series, but for me, they were always just one big show. And because it really does lead right into it.
Yeah, they overlap.
So that's what's so
heavily.
cool. Yeah, so that's what's really cool to me is that it really just felt like one giant show. Voyager branches off just enough to feel a little bit separate.
Yep.
I like Voyager. I think Voyager's had a rough start, but I think in the end, Voyager ended up becoming another great show. It also was one of the best looking Star Trek shows on television for the time, too.
True.
It really became very cinematic. They did a good job with that show. And then Enterprise hit.
That's the one Katie and I have not seen.
And again, you know what? Yeah. That show actually came into its own in the later seasons. But I got to tell you, I can still remember to this day being so excited for that show. Super excited, even willing to give it a chance, even though Bakula was the captain. I got nothing against Scott Bakula, but I mean, anyways. So I remember sitting down. I was in college, ready and waiting to watch this. There were a bunch of other geeks like me around, and we were all ready. We got the TV on, and it comes on, and that theme song hits. And I was just, it's been a long time. I'm like, what the
Mortis
is this? Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
The first Star Trek show with lyrics in the theme song at all.
Mm-hmm. Just
doesn't belong.
Very
different. So yeah,
no.
DS9. Long answer again. You gotta be careful, man. I give long answers.
Even though DS9 is your show, is there a captain that you consider your captain?
Boy, oh boy.
I'm so sorry.
Damn it. Well, Picard.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not even like having grown up on TNG. It's just Patrick Stewart kind of nailed that ideology of the Federation without it becoming either too goody two shoes or becoming like, I need to wrestle with it. Like, he never wrestled with it. Whatever he wrestled with was how hard the decisions were to make in the moment. But what the Federation stood for, he understood that.
Okay.
And he was meant to be, he understood his role as a captain to prove why that had to be what it had to be. That makes sense. That's actually why I'm a little like hesitant with the new series, because it's like, oh, he's abandoned the Federation. That doesn't feel right to me. Like, I always felt like Picard would die before not fighting to make sure that the Federation was what it's supposed to be. Like, for him to walk away to me is like, holy shit, you better have a really good story for why he's walking away.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, I had the same worries, but the fact that he said like it would have taken a story like this to make him come back gives me some sort of confidence.
So if it's making if it's making Stuart happy, then I'm willing to give it a chance.
Yeah.
Especially, he's been through so much as a character, Picard, and to still like be in it was a thing. Like to still be a part of the Federation was like proof of that. So, anyways, yeah, Picard.
Yeah,
Picard.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So, getting into Orville stuff, because of course we got to get to Orville stuff eventually.
Mm-hmm. That show?
That show. Speaking of Star Trek, let's talk about Orville.
I've heard it's okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
So you've done, I've looked at your work that you have on ArtStation and stuff, and it's fantastic.
Oh, thank you. That's too kind.
And obviously Trek has to be some sort of an inspiration, but I imagine one of the things you run into a lot is not getting too Trek.
Yeah, of course. Or to anything, really.
So are there certain things that you do as an artist to differentiate the kind of look of the Orville?
Well, the thing is that we kind of have some keystones, right? We have some looks that we enjoy from different series, mediums, whatever it may be. So, for instance, Mass Effect, the video game.
Oh, sure.
There's some design cues in that are actually very Sid Mead. I don't know if you guys know who Sid Mead is. He's a very, very prolific concept designer. He's probably the concept designer. He's kind of like the granddaddy to all us concept designers. So he started in the 50s. He was an automotive designer at Art Center, Pasadena.
Okay.
And an incredible designer, but he started doing more science fiction-y things. But because he had such an amazing background in illustration for designing cars, his designs weren't kind of like that funkier design that you find in the 50s. Where it's a little bit more fantastical. They were really well thought out. So everyone's like, oh my God, Sid, this actually looks like a proper spaceship, or this is like what it might look like in the future. His designs always stood above. So he was kind of like the granddaddy, again, to concept design, which is instead of just being fantastical art where we're like smashing things together, we're trying our best to suspend your disbelief and make you go, yeah, this is real.
Okay.
So Mass Effect takes a lot of his cues off his design style in that. So Mass Effect is a big touchstone for us in general because there's a lot of great kind of like curvature and stuff, and in a lot of the I keep forgetting what their union is called. It might even be called the Union. I can't remember. I mean, there's only so many times you can say Union, Federation, Alliance before like yeah. Anyway, so we take some cues from that. We take cues, of course, from Star Trek. We take cues even from Star Wars. We take cues from Blade Runner sometimes, like a lot of the bigger things and even smaller things, but I try to always interject my own personal tastes. Here's the truth into it, right? So I feel like that's what's going to make it unique is to also know what Seth likes, know kind of where our touchstones are, and then say, hey, what am I trying to get in there? Right?
Okay.
Because if it's something that I think is from something that's completely different out of left field out of all of those, but it still fits, that's what's going to make it us. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not the only one too, right? Because I'm on a team. So if someone else has a great idea that interjects something new and different into it, then I run with that. Because I'm not territorial about my designs.
Sure.
Like that doesn't work in a team environment. You can't be like, it's all me. It's just I design everything. Like, no, that's not true at all. So I design a majority of stuff, but again, it's a collaborative effort. I'm the brainstorm guy.
Sure.
Right? That's the way you got to look at me. So I'm the start. I'm the one, like Seth and the writers and Goodman and all those guys, John, all those guys, Cassar, will all come up with like a cool idea in a script or something that they want to do, or even it's after the script's been written, like, oh, how about this? And I'm just the guy who's like scribbling stuff on a napkin going like this. Yeah, this. Yeah, right. Except mine's a little bit more involved than a pen and a napkin. That's all. But then after that, the set designers will get to it and they'll flush it out if it's a set design. The prop master will get to it with his guys and they'll go ahead and make it a reality, like by drawing up proper plans and stuff. I'll do like views of stuff, like for props, like front, back, 3/4. But I'm not going to sit there and like draw up exactly how you're going to make it. Right.
Right.
I don't, that's not me. Like somebody else does that. Same thing with VFX. VFX will take a design for something I did or a skyline design or something. And then they'll run with that and do it properly and build it all up in 3D.
Okay.
So I'm just the brainstorm guy.
Okay.
I'll paint pretty pictures. That's what I do.
What is it like though, when you create something and then you see it essentially come to life?
It's horrible. It's absolutely amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, it sometimes can be a little funky because sometimes you'll see someone like take it and they'll run with it and they might even like do something that was even better than what you designed. You're like, oh yeah, that's And people are like, good job, Lex. It's like, yeah, that wasn't me, man. Like, I feel like I inspired that person, but they did the job. So first off, I've got that Canadian bomb in my neck because I was born in Canada. So I'm super polite. Like if I'm not, it goes off and my head explodes. So when people are like, wow, you did all that. I'm like, no, don't say that. So I'm always trying to make sure credit is where credit's due, but it's always really cool. I mean, especially with props, because props is something you hold in your hands, right? And same with sets and costumes. So like with all of those things, like being able to walk through something that you've been involved with, I mean, that's the coolest thing. That's what gets the kid in me so excited, because I've always wanted to create worlds, and I still want to create something outside of just film and television. Like I love to, there's a tabletop game I'm working on right now that I've been designing for a while. I'm not going to plug it or anything because it's nowhere near.
Okay.
No. It's not ready to be plugged. Okay. We'll talk then. Don't worry. We'll talk then. Cool, I'll send you guys a copy. You can play and review it for me and be like, "This is Mortis." Can I swear on this podcast?
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then get ready. No, I'm just kidding. But like I've always wanted to get involved with also like theme parks and experiences and stuff like that. That's why like the Orville experience, as successful as it was and as cool as it was, I really want us to go the distance with the next one. But again, I'm only involved with that to a point. So, sure. But if they let me, oh boy, if they let me.
That was something that didn't really get announced until like right before San Diego Comic-Con, right? Like that was kind of in your back pockets for a while.
Yeah, that was something that because there was some things going on behind the scenes, nothing like bad, nothing dramatic. It takes some planning to do that. And for the longest time, we didn't know if we were fighting to get the show floor or not. Okay. Right. For Comic-Con. And in the end, I'm glad we didn't. I don't think we need to be on the show floor. I think the problem with being on the con floor itself is you need to be in the convention to get to it, which most people are in San Diego to go to the convention. So they have badges. It's not necessarily a huge problem, but anyone that doesn't can't, which kind of sucks for locals. But more importantly too, if you've got something on the show floor, it's really hard to manage lines. It's hard to get people in and out. It becomes one of those things. It's like you can see it from the outside and only the very special few get to go in. I hate that. I hate that because that's not us. That's not our community. That's not our show. That's not who we are. We're not about like, oh, we're the premium. You have to make sure that you're cool enough to watch us, like, or get us, or like get into our thing. Like, no, that's not who we are. We're the Orville. We want everyone to come along and have a fun time. So I like the idea. We did something that was free. Like, just walk on in. Yeah. What do I got to do? Nothing. You might even get a free book here and there. Like, we were giving out free stuff. I was like walking around taking pictures with people. I think you guys were, yeah. So anyways, the point is that that's us. And I'm very happy that's what the experience reflected, was us. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I love the fact that the themes of the show are reflected by the people that work on it, because this community has been so accepting and so welcoming, and not just the fans, but the people that work on the show, you, Tom, anybody I've talked to, the other content creators that make Orville stuff. It is like, I've never seen this kind of a community, and I've been a part of a lot of fandoms, but this one is just so like, please come in. We want everybody in here.
Yeah, and and I agree with you. I've been a part of a lot of fandoms and still are, that have all gotten toxic at one point or another, or now are still toxic. And that's really sad to see, because that's not the point of a fandom. The point of a fandom is that you're escaping from reality, especially nowadays. I mean, we don't have to get into talk about reality, but oh boy, we're living in the bad alternate timeline. That's what we are. We're in the mirror universe, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. So it's nice to be able to escape that. So when people want to just bring all that toxicity into fandoms of something, I just don't get it. And to not see that happen in ours, or see it sprout up all of a sudden and then quickly be squashed is great. That's the other thing I've seen. So I've seen like a little bit of toxic here and there in our community, but it's disappeared pretty quick. And not like under an iron fist or anything, just like people being like, all right, sure, you be toxic. Go for it. I'm not going to engage you.
Yeah, the fires are there for like a little bit, but nobody fuels them. So they just kind of fade away.
Exactly. Because what's the point? What's the point of that, right? Like, why? Is that really what you want to do with your free time? Right. Okay. Enjoy. Yeah. So yeah, I do. I love our community for that. And I also, it's the people that are keeping that spirit alive, like you guys. There's the truth. You're the voices of the community to a certain extent, and that's fantastic. It's nice to have voices that are level, intelligent. I mean, your podcast is great. I've listened to it, so I listen to it.
Thank you.
Well, of course. Well, of
Yeah,
course. I'm
thank
a
you.
podcast guy. Like, I listen to all these podcasts. When I'm working, like, crazy hours painting stuff, I can't listen to the same song 300 times. So I want to listen to, so, and you guys are very kind and very fair to us. And I can't thank you enough. That's a big deal as I pump you up. But honestly, like,
we'll take it.
It's nice, though. It's nice that we're part of something where people want to have an intelligent discussion about it. Right? That's a big deal.
Talking about your designs a little bit, there were a couple that stuck out to me, and I'm wondering if those were things that you came up with completely. Like, so I know you're a gamer, and I looked at the controller that you made.
Yeah.
I know, outing you.
It's fine with me.
The controller you made, super cool. I love the like colors and everything on it. But also the Kalon head cannons. Was that a concept you came up with, or was that something they said, we want to work them in? How would we get that to work?
Yeah, so basically the script came across my desk, and it was like, and then suddenly, boom, their eyes open, and it's guns. Okay, cool. so I was like, all right, how do we do this? So my first actual designs for it they were a lot more reserved than that, actually.
Okay.
So the thing is that I kind of go both places, right? So I got to think from a practical standpoint a lot with my designs, too. It's like, how big can I go with them, and how much do I have to actually say, what can we afford? So there's always the line that I'm kind of towing when I design stuff, is because, oh yeah, I could design this crazy elaborate thing, but if it's going to cost half the budget, it's never going to get made. And then more importantly, if it's going to cost half the budget, test season and goes okay, everyone's going to look at me and be like, thanks, Lex. Thanks a lot. So my initial designs for the Kalon head guns were actually quite simple. Like it was just a panel, like their panels just came out, the panels that you see there.
Uh-huh.
It was more of like side panels than the front.
Okay.
Right? And like this little kind of beautiful, elegant, like almost like those railgun things that you see kind of in the design, because then VFX took them and made them more like barrels than railguns.
Yeah.
Right? Which, that's cool. I'm glad they did that. But at the same time, there's a part of me that's like, I wish you kept the railgun look. So it was like just these like elegant railguns that came out of the side of their heads and kept their eyes actually there. Because the eyes becoming the barrels weren't necessarily a thing at first. So even in my designs, you'll see like the eyes are still kind of there. That was something VFX decided to go with. It's like the eyes that we see the entire time are actually just gun barrels. Yeah. So that's something to keep in mind. Whenever you look at Isaac, you look into his eyes, you're looking into gun barrels.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, Isaac, I love you. And your gun barrels.
It's almost like he was lying at one point, too, because he said these are purely aesthetic.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, he had to lie, right?
Right.
He had to lie. He couldn't let those dirty humans know what was up. But again, like, that's the other thing, too. Like, just a quick aside here is every show has to have a little bit of leeway between what it's written before and what's a cool new idea. And the cool thing, again, about our community is that no one was like, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm out. Like, like you could have said that, too, about, like, Isaac when he was shooting on the planet with the kids and Claire. Why did he break those out? Right? And there's a lot of reasons you can justify it. He didn't want them to know because the Kalons didn't want anyone to know that yet. That kind of thing. But again, no one made a big fuss. No one made a giant fuss about that. And we've seen other fandoms. We've just talked about it where little things like that can cause people to just like skyrocket out of control. It's like, just calm down and enjoy the show. So again, those guns got a little bit off topic, but those guns, when I first showed them the more simple, elegant design, it was too simple. Okay. It was too reserved. Seth was like, no, I wanted to fold out like Transformers. I'm like, okay. Fold out like Transformers it is. Here we go. So I wanted it to be such a different look than everything we've seen Kalon, right? Everything we've seen Kalon is very smooth, very elegant, right? One of those things when they came out were just like, like they felt like Decepticons almost out of Transformers. Like just, even though I don't like those films' designs, although Bumblebee was really good.
It was.
But before that, they were all just a little too over the top because it kind of lost their silhouettes. Point is that I wanted them to have that kind of like, if you put your hand in there, it's not coming back out kind of thing. You know what I mean? Just like, it looks like it just shreds stuff up. So that's why it's all these aggressive angles. That's why it was such a different look from the rest of the Kalon. So when they got their business face on, it was like, oh yeah, we're dead. So that was the idea.
You might even say that it's exposing their true intentions.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is true, Kalon.
Katie, you looked like you had something to say.
No, I just was thinking about that whole episode, the identity episodes, and how my mind was blown during them because I love Isaac, like I really do,
So do
and
I.
just I still do. I just was That's all. I just kind of went down my own head trail. So thinking about
this
the
is
show.
all I'm going to say without spoiling anything. You're going to love season 3.
Oh,
I'm excited.
we are very, very excited for season 3. Has anything kind of changed on your end? I know the big talk about season 3 is the move to Hulu and everything, but has anybody changed kind of in your department as a result of that?
So the big change for us is that, and I know there's some people that are worried that think that moving to Hulu is a less than thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that. It's quite the opposite. It's like us moving to HBO. Like we just went from being on Fox to now being like a Game of Thrones equivalent. Like, get ready. We're upping budget. Like we're making. When Seth's like, I want to give you a movie every week, he ain't lying, because we got the first 4 or 5 episodes, and it's like, oh great, yeah, we got to make this by when? Oh god. So that's why I've literally been going to work. I get into work about 6:45, and I leave on average around 11 o'clock at night right now.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. It's a lot. I've had to work some weekends through that too, and it's a lot. But you know what? It's funny. It's not necessarily anyone forcing me to work those hours. It's just I'm in a position where I have to know what I need to get done so I don't become a bottleneck. So that's always the problem with being the concept designer, the senior concept designer on the show, and pretty much the only concept designer in my department, like for what I'm doing. So because of that responsibility and because it's like only me doing what I'm doing, if I'm not on top of it, if I'm not pumping out all those designs, other departments are sitting around going, so what are we doing? Right. And we can't have that. We have production dates, we have shoot dates, we have all that. So because of all this awesome stuff that we're doing, like and that one part where yeah. So because of all those awesome things that are coming, we are, and it's not just me, I'm not the only one saying like there's other people too, but because of that, we really have to get into high gear.
Yeah.
So the thing that's changed is that I'm just doing more, which is awesome. I'm doing more. Like I've got more to design this season, more cool things to bring to life. So for me, this season is going to be awesome. If you guys really loved last season, I gotta tell you, man, this season, I know we've been saying it because we can't reveal too much when we say it's going to be great and it's going to be awesome and it's going to be bigger. It is. That's not just like us hyping you up. It is. It's all those things. So get ready literally for a movie every week.
Yeah, I know there were some people that were disappointed just because they're going to a pay service. But at the same time, like, you got to look at the potential in that because, and Seth has said these things too, that like you're not bound by the same episode length. It gives you more freedom. You don't have to leave things on the cutting floor that you would have included, stuff like that. We don't have to deal with the act breaks as much, like an insert a commercial here. I'm very excited for the move personally.
I am too.
Great. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I think you should be, because again, it's making the show better, not worse. I mean, I get not wanting to go to a pay service. Look, all of us are juggling budgets and in this economy. Like, it's not like we're all rolling around in money, just throwing it at everything we can. We're all living on a budget. So I get that. Like, even us, we don't, at our house, like we don't have cable, and we jump between streaming services, right? Like when Game of Thrones was still a thing, we never had HBO until Game of Thrones would show up. We'd have it during the run of Game of Thrones, then we get rid of it. And that would be my suggestion to people that are Orville fans.
Sure.
Get it for the length of the show, then get rid of it. It's not like you got to get it now. No one's asking you to buy Hulu now. Don't do it unless you need it. Like that's my thing. And I get it. I get not wanting to pay more money for something, especially something that might have been already part of what you were watching or free, depending on where you live. Because I think Fox was a local channel for a lot of people, right? I'm bad at that. So it was somewhat free. You know what I mean? So I get that. I really do. But again, we're making a product. There's the truth. And that product needs to have some money behind it. And so it has to have money behind it. Sometimes you got to pay for it. There it is, Yeah. And I know that sucks for some people. And I really have nothing to say but sorry. But when you get a chance, watch us in any way that you can.
Here's a kind of weird one with your art stuff too, is you have some experience as an actor. I noticed as well. Does that...
Oh, crap.
Does that come into play at all when you're designing? Like, do you think that
absolutely
forward? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So I try to make sure that what I'm designing depends on what it is. So like, let's say, for instance, I'm designing a prop that is going to be used by an actor. I mean, all props get used by actors. Sure. So well done, Lex. But my point is let's say I'm designing a prop. So I want to make sure there's enough action there for not only what's in the script, but also for what the actor might want to do with it, right? So I'm trying to think of that. Same thing with sets. Same thing with like whatever, like a picture vehicle. So like, let's say some cool sci-fi vehicle. Any of those things, I'm trying to think beyond just does it look cool. I'm trying to think about what are the actors actually going to do. Like, again, this is Kit Stolen and I. We powwow. We're in the same office right now. We have our own little room. It's kind of like the brain trust where we just sit there and pump out ideas for designs and stuff for the Orville. And we're always constantly not just thinking about, does it look cool? Does it have a cool style to it? But how does it work? Why does it work? What's it got to do? What's it going to feel like in an actor's hand? How can an actor actually sit there? How can they use something? All those things, right? So always that. But then also on another tangent is that my acting experience is a lot of voice acting too. So, and people are like, what's that got to do with anything? Well, voice acting for me, you always kind of had to create a story behind your characters beyond the script, because that all you had was your voice.
Yeah.
So you had to kind of come up with a bunch of like other content. I always try to create a little bit more beyond the story that maybe no one ever hears about, right? Maybe it doesn't make it anywhere, but in my own head. And that helps because that helps inform the design, right? I really want things to be believable. I want you guys to look at something and go, yep, that's what that is. I don't want you to be like, because as soon as your disbelief is no longer suspended because of one of my designs, that's the worst offense I could probably ever do as a designer. Because again, I'm that guy. I'm that guy going, why aren't they wearing helmets? Right? So like for me, I really want to make sure you believe everything that you see. Right? So I guess in that regard, does that make sense?
Sure,
where actors
totally.
like take something and create a little bit more?
Yeah. Is there an example of something that comes to mind for you where you did kind of create a little bit of a background to it that maybe we wouldn't know about because it just was not in the script or anything?
Yeah, Zalayan Horse, the Ebic.
Yeah?
Yeah, so the Ebic was an interesting design because I had a lot of restrictions on it too, right? It's like, we want to do a creature design because we haven't really done one this season. We have to have a cool creature for Zalea. We want to do this graceful horse creature. But the thing is that we don't have a ton of a budget for it. So it's only going to be on screen for a certain amount of time, right? So why pay a crazy amount through the nose for this super complex creature?
Okay.
So it was like, these are the things you can actually mess with in the design. Its head, its feet, its tail. So otherwise it's a horse. Right? So it's like, okay, right. So I had to design something that still felt like it should have a horse's body, but the little additions made sense. It wasn't just a horse with a mask on, right?
Right.
So that was my biggest fear. In fact, the original design of the Evic, it had 4 eyes, not just one. Because I really wanted to push at least that. I wanted to make it feel a little bit more alien by having 4 eyes.
Okay.
They were still like horse's eyes, necessarily, like in look, because a horse's eyes are very, I feel are very approachable. Horses are very, I love horses.
Sure.
So I'm just going to say that really out loud. I'm a horse guy. I love riding. So I really wanted to keep that like that approachable sense to it, because again, like you don't want her being like, it's an Evic, and she's walking up to it and it's like Zalayans have a weird concept of cute. So the idea behind that thing actually, because it's because again, they're like on the coast, islands, maybe. It's never really discussed if like it's on an island or not. I think it's an island, right? The mainland, they say it's an island.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, regardless, they are, like you said, on the coast. We can see the water
again,
and everything.
It's very tropical. It's very like coastal waters and all that stuff. So the idea for the Evic was that it's maybe like not necessarily reptilian, but it's equestrian reptilian. So it's kind of got like, you know, as you see in the tail's a little bit reptilian, where it has that long tail for balance. But the reason behind all these decisions, especially the ears that you see and like the beak, is that it's made to like hunt like hard shell life forms like on the seacoast.
Oh,
so that's actually the idea. That and like hard shell fruits. So I like the idea of like that's why it has that beak, is that it's actually like whatever a Zalayan lobster is or crab, it's running around the coastline going into water about like as deep as it can get and just like quickly grabbing them, or like going within like little seabeds and stuff and like going in there and doing that kind of stuff. And the idea behind the ears is that they're actually made to that's actually how it finds its prey. It's kind of like echolocation, but like it's super, super powerful. So it can go through water and even like sand and stuff like that and find it. So you just see them running along the sand line after the tidal waves come in. And as the waves are going out, it just like runs up, bam, dives its beak into the ground and like grabs out a lobster or something that's underneath, you know, like Zalayan lobster. Whatever that is, a zobster. Don't quote me on that. Don't put it in a wiki. Seth will kill me. You made up a lobster? I don't know, man.
Look, you work on the show. It's canon now.
No,
Yeah, it's canon now.
And
It's lore.
we'll have another interview next week where I'm like, I'm not on the show anymore. So that was the idea. The idea is like, I really want to make this thing make sense, right? And even though you have no idea about any of that when you're watching it, you're still watching and go, yeah, okay.
Yeah, there have been a lot of things that when we're watching episodes we've commented on, like, it's not something you particularly notice, but if it wasn't there, then your brain would go, what's wrong here?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that does happen, right? You watch a show and you're like, why am I not digging this? Like, I don't, I'm going to use a show as I'm going to use a show as an example. And because of what show it is, you guys are going to be like, oh no. Well, let's talk about Star Trek Discovery really quick.
Okay, let's do it.
But with a preface.
Okay.
I think everyone working on that show is super talented. I think they put together a really great show. Craftsman-wise, I think it's a lot of work to put that show together. I really like who they casted, actually. I think there's a great group of actors on there.
Agreed.
I think if it wasn't Star Trek, I'd love that show.
Yes.
Just going to say that.
Yeah, I agree.
Gonna say that.
I agree with you. Yeah.
And it's not me knocking it. It's not me knocking that show in any way whatsoever, because I don't want to knock a show, because it's people working, right? Those people all have families. They got to pay the bills. And there's a lot of time and money put into that show. It shows. So that being said, can I spoil something from that show on here? Do you guys do spoilers? It's been a while.
I'm okay with it, personally.
Yeah.
Spoiler
go for it.
alert for Star Trek Discovery. Okay. There's a scene in last season with a torpedo. I don't know if you guys have seen this show yet or not.
I've seen season 1.
Okay. So in season 2, there's a torpedo that gets lodged into the side of a ship.
Okay.
So I'm not going to try and spoil too much. But the point is that the people that go down to deal with said torpedo are the captain and an admiral. Because they're the most important people on the ship.
So send them to the explodey
They should be
thing.
dealing with.
And then it gets just worse from there. Like,
Oh, boy.
for instance, there's things like, so the torpedo's just lodged in the hull just perfectly enough that there's like atmosphere not venting into space. They're just standing around the torpedo. Okay, maybe they threw shields up about it. Okay, we'll get over that. But my point is, like, it just continues. The scene just continues to get worse and worse, and you're just sitting there going, yeah, I'm not believing any of this. Right down to the point that one of the characters sacrifices themselves to protect the other character behind a blast door that's right next to the torpedo, and the torpedo still just goes off.
Oh.
So wait a second.
Oh.
And the ship's fine, by the way. The ship's fine. So I sit there, you gotta ask yourself, it's like, so why'd you go down there to even bother with the torpedo if it could have just went off? Why did either one of you have to die here? It's just,
Right?
It makes, yeah. So it's that kind of stuff that I'm happy that we don't do. Just saying.
I do the same thing. Continuity errors or anything takes me right out of it, and I like notice them. Yeah, so I appreciate that about Orville, because I notice.
Katie
those
knows
things.
what I'm talking about. So
yeah, I do. Is there any episode that's like particularly meaningful to you that you've worked on so far?
That's a good question.
I know that might be a hard question.
That is a hard question, because I think what we have going in the Orville, which is really nice, is that there's a through line through every episode. There's a major through line. It really, like, watching us in order is a deal. We don't really have one-offs, I don't feel. Like, we did in season 1, but I feel like in season 2, especially looking at season 3, that's not our case. Like, everything is flowing into each other to make it one big story. So it's hard for me to pick just one. If I had to really think about it for season 2, the one that, man, I can't. It
is hard, yeah. Like season 1, there are more kind of standalone type things. Even though you're following character arcs and stuff like that, there are more standalone stories. Season 2 is very.
I guess I could say Home, because I did a lot on Home. Home was a lot of work. So that was kind of cool. Being able to bring Zalea to life, especially knowing that was a fan favorite, was like, this is awesome. Also totally terrifying. Right? Because there's a part of me too that sat there going, it's a high gravity planet. So what does that mean? And Seth's like, no, don't worry about it. Like, it's a high gravity planet, but they've evolved at a different, they've evolved with different materials, all this different stuff. Even like organically, they're different. So it's not the way we got to look at high gravity on Earth. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Because otherwise it's like all squat stuff, like stuff that has to, like withstand crazy gravity and not like super high structures and stuff like that. He's like, no, that's not the case on Zalea. And then of course I did it. A lot of people loved it. And of course all the arguments came out, not all of them, but a few arguments came out like, it's a high gravity planet. I'm like, oh man.
But it's all relative, though, right? Like,
But
if
it's all relative.
if they
Exactly.
lived
It's
in
all
that
relative.
environment,
Yeah.
why would it look any different, like, conceptually from what our planet might look like, aside from, like, their culture and stuff? And
It's as simple as this. There's a lot of arguments for it. There's a lot of arguments against it. The question is, where do you turn off your brain?
yeah,
Right? Like,
Yeah.
because again, I'm a guy who's all about suspending disbelief, but again, there's people even worse than me. And I get that. And we try to cater to as many people as we can, but you know, we're the people that are really super hard science beyond even like scientists. Sorry, guys, we're doing our best. So
I think
Yeah.
there's a little extra forgiveness with a show like The Orville too, because especially in season 1, I know the tone has shifted a little bit and it's getting more and more serious as we go, and I love that.
yeah,
But like when it starts off very comedic, you kind of go in with a certain expectation, like, okay, we let a lot of stuff slide that we might not with another more serious show.
absolutely. Because that's the thing is like if you look at there's been some science fiction shows that are just really trying to push the tech, push the science, but they're doing that, but they're also not following through, and because of that, it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at a show like Firefly, if you look at a show like, or even a movie like Star Wars, where it's not just about the tech, it's about the characters. It's about having characters that are relatable, funny, lovable characters. You're willing to, again, like you said, look past some of these smaller plot holes, look past some of these smaller details, because it's just the stage that it's set in, right? It's a very believable stage,
Yep.
but in the end, you know better that it's just a stage, and it's really about the characters more than anything. And I think that's what's great about our show. I mean, I love our cast. I mean, not just the actors. I mean, I love the characters. The characters are awesome. I think we have great characters. They're all different enough from each other, and they all have great interactions between each other that I feel like there's never a filler episode. You know what I mean? And that's important. That's super important.
Yeah. I mean, we all love TNG, and they teched the tech more than the Orville has ever had to.
Absolutely. Yeah, they were the tech masters.
Yeah.
Tech jargon.
Babble.
Tech jargon. Here it comes.
Yeah. Like crazy. So when you're at work, do you get to spend time on the set and see the filming and stuff like that? Or are you stuck in your office working on concept
No.
stuff?
The set's literally just a walk away.
Oh, okay.
I do spend a lot of time in the office, a lot of time at my desk. But again, it's just the nature of what I do. I have been on set for a few things when they're filming them. But again, most of the time I'm working while they're working. But for instance, I got to sit through Scott in the cockpit of the Krill fighter, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
That was fun. He's the one that came up with a lot of the Top Gun references.
Really?
Yeah, it was Scott interjecting them. And of course, like, then Seth bounces ideas off of that and then goes further with it, because that's what's really cool about Seth. Seth is a really collaborative dude. He'll just tell you when he doesn't like something. And he doesn't like tell you like, no, that's horrible. It's like he tells you in a very, very nice way. Like it's always open communication with him. So again, that's the coolest thing about working on the show, is that it's a lot of collaboration. It's a lot of people bringing something to it. And that's the whole point, right? We get hired on the Orville to do our jobs, not to fill a position. Some productions you're filling a position, but you're being told what to do exactly to the like micron. And you might as well just be a wrist, right? Not actually that's what we call in the art world when someone wants you to design something, but you're not designing it. You're just literally like they're puppeteering you. And I'm going to use the nice term instead of the horrible term about that. But basically, like, that's not us on the Orville. Like, people are given jobs and are allowed to run with it. And if Seth doesn't like something, he'll tell you why. And that's what's so cool, is that he's not one of those guys that comes up and goes, oh yeah, just make it cooler. Like, make it cooler. Or like spout 6 different movies that don't relate to each other and like that. Like, what? No. He's got a really methodical mind in a great way. Like, he really tries to think things out and say, why does this work? Why is this the way it is? Why does it look the way it is? In fact, he had a really good design note the other day. So we were designing something, and I'm not even going to like tell you what it is, but the point is we were designing something, and a lot of the parts were exposed. And he's like, I don't think of it like that. Think of it like an airplane. We know there's a lot of complexity going on in an airplane, but all we see is the airplane. Right? So like little things like that come out of his mouth are like just super helpful from a design standpoint, because again, he's got that visual mind, right?
Yeah.
He comes from a visual base. So it's great. It's freaking awesome. I love working on the show. So I know this has started with like, do you see the set? But of course I ramble and rant. But yes, I do see the set, and I visit it actually quite often, because we go there either if it's for inspiration for something that we're designing for the set, or we got to go check something that's being built on set. whatever it may be. We see the set a lot.
Being someone that kind of sees how the dinner is made, more or less, the wizard behind the curtain, do you still get to enjoy the show in the same way that a regular fan would watch it? Or do you feel like, no,
I don't get to enjoy it like the regular fan would, because there's no surprise, right? That element's gone. That's always kind of the one little bummer when you're working on a show that you love, right? Is that you're not going to have that. Now, it doesn't ruin it. I don't want to say it ruins it. It doesn't ruin it. If you're working on a good show, it doesn't ruin it, because then you get to watch and you're like, oh, it all came to life. And, because the other thing too is I'm not sitting in the editing bay, right? I'm not sitting and watching all the footage they're shooting. So I still don't know all that part. I don't know what's necessarily being shot. Well, I know what's being shot, but you know what I mean? I'm not seeing what's being shot most of the time. Like, I poke my head into the editing room every once in a while, and like with Tom, I'm like, oh, show me that sequence. Oh, that's cool. You know what I mean? But otherwise, I don't see the entirety of the show until it hits. I'm waiting around just like you guys. And much preferably love to wait around just like you guys. I don't want to see it in pieces. I'd much rather just see it in its entirety. But again, the only thing that's really ruined there is that I know everything, right? So all those beats, all those jokes don't hit like they could, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
They still hit pretty well in our show, but they don't hit like they could.
Right.
So
that makes sense.
In that regard, yeah.
Katie, anything you want to get in there before we're getting close to that hour?
I mean, do you create any art just for fun? Like just on the side?
Yes.
Do you?
Tons. I don't stop. I don't stop. I can't stop, because the truth is that, look, there's a couple of things that this is a good last question. It doesn't have, and by the way, it doesn't have to be a last question. If you guys only go an hour, I get that.
It feels like an appropriate last question.
I'm here for you. So if you want to talk more, I'm all about it. But the point is that for me, you got to be doing your own art in addition to what you're being paid for, so you don't go dry in a sense, because it's kind of like staring at something for too long. You start to lose track of what it actually might look like. I don't know if you guys have heard that before. Like, sometimes you got to take a step back from something that you're working on.
100%.
Take a break. Yeah, and come back, and then, you suddenly notice this, and this. You know what I mean? So it's that kind of thing. You got to like refresh the brain a little bit. More importantly, too, what I might be working on for art isn't necessarily what's going to get me better in a certain certain aspect of art. So, like, for instance, if I want to be working on my anatomy and get better at my anatomy, which all artists are constantly doing anyways, it's not necessarily going to happen when I'm designing a bunch of environments. So I probably want to do a bunch of anatomy sketches on my off time, stuff like that. So there's that. Also, I've got a live stream, as you guys know, a Twitch channel, and that's actually helped a lot, because it's helped get past my artistic block. So my big thing is that when I wasn't working, I was having a really hard time doing my own stuff for a long time there, because I was just like, I'm finally off. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything with art. And or when I did, I would just like overthink something and would be staying on like a face and trying to work it out for like 6 hours straight. It's getting crazy. So what's nice about live streaming is that you have an audience. You can't be just working on an eyeball for 6 hours straight. And more importantly, they expect things. So unfortunately, the only thing that's gotten in the way of the stream right now is work, which is, understandable. But otherwise, it's great because it's kept me making art in my own time, which I love to do. Like, I love to make art. So it's kept me kind of honest to myself in a way. So yeah, I make a lot of my own art in my own time because I have to, because it's how I'm going to grow as an artist. It's the only way I'm going to get better. It's the only way I'm not going to get stagnant. Because if you get stagnant as a visual artist, that's the worst thing that can happen. If you get comfortable, you get left behind. There's the truth. And especially with the digital age. I mean, in the digital age, art mediums are changing weekly. Yeah. Like, I mean, now you can do stuff in VR. You can build everything in VR. I mean, it's just, we got 3D printers. Like, everything is just ramping up exponentially. So you got to stay ahead with that game. You got to stay current at all times, man. It's also, here's something else that's part of that. Here's something else that's part of that is, it's also that zeitgeist thing, right? What is the language? What is the form language of the time, of pulp culture, of what people expect, right? So like a design in the 90s for something isn't necessarily going to fly now, right? So you got to stay current with what's out there. You got to stay current with what other people are designing. You got to stay current with what's happening in film and TV and video games and whatever, anything. So that way your designs don't get left behind or become archaic or become unbelievable, right? So I live, breathe, and eat it, and I try to find time for, I think I got a family, I think. My wife and kid are around here somewhere. So,
somewhere around here.
So like, that's the thing. It's like, it's this constant juggling act. Like people are like, oh, you're a designer. I'm like, no, I'm a juggler. That's what I am. Like, because it is that. You're just constantly juggling everything. It's there's this great little animated meme, and it shows 3 sliders, and one of them is work, one of them is healthy lifestyle, and one of them is satisfaction.
Yeah.
And you can't get any of them to be equal. So if you want to do work and family time, like all the way up to the top, like satisfaction just drops because you got no time for yourself, kind of thing. I think it's not satisfaction, it's something else. But my point is, that's it. It's like you never can get enough of anything. Like my weekends feel like they fly by. I feel like I never get enough time with my family. Of course, right? Mm-hmm. Like, but at the same time, I'm like, but I should be working. It's psychotic, but it's there. Mm-hmm. Like that's in the back of my head going, should be doing this, this, and this, because if I'm not doing it, we're not going to get it done in time. Like it's just.
I feel that so hard.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And the only thing that I can make peace with it when it comes to that stuff is to know that I tried, right? That I didn't just turn off. Because this is going to get a little personal, but I'm okay with that. Basically, I was having a hard time there without getting too much into crazy details. I was having a hard time there when I was getting off work, doing my own stuff like I just talked about, because I was just turning off. I was literally turning off. I was almost giving up in a way, right? It was like, no, I'm just not even going to bother. Not even going to try. Not even pick up a sketchbook, right? To the point where it's just like gaming, like not to the point like I'm ignoring my family. This is like after the kids gone to sleep. Yeah. I'm not a bad dad. No bad dad. That's always what I say. No bad dad. Good dad. No bad dad. But like once my responsibilities were over and it was just me and it was my own time, I would just waste it basically, right? And some people are like, well, that's not wasted playing video games. And I agree, it's not wasting. But if that's all I'm doing, if all I'm doing is doing something that's not giving back to me, like in my soul, basically, and I'm not like a religious dude by any means, but what I mean by soul, I mean, am I going to walk away feeling like I wasted my time last week? Or am I going to walk away feeling like at least I logged what I needed to log in, or at least I tried to, at least I attempted to get better within whatever aspect it was of myself. It could be whatever it is for you. It could be that you're a writer. It could be that you physically want to get more fit. Whatever the hell it is, like I want to read this book. Those goals we set for ourselves, right? As long as we try, we can walk away saying, at least I'm trying. At least I'm giving it. At least I'm doing something, because hard schedules and hard routines never work, right? You end up like, oh, I'm going to do it. I've kept to it for 30 days straight. And then you break once and it's like, Fortis. So like that's a thing for me. It's like, as long as I give it my best college try, I'm okay. So anyways.
No, I like that. I'm in the same boat, so I understand. I like to try at things and do my best to feel like I did something.
Yeah, so. And that's what's important, Katie, is that, you just, you don't sit there going, at least I didn't give up. Or at least I didn't ignore it, right? Because ignoring it is almost as worse, to be completely honest, where you're just like, it was great.
Just piles up.
Oh, yeah, that comes back and bites you in the middle of the night where you just sit there staring at your ceiling on your pillow going, I'm not going to be able to turn my brain off tonight. Great.
Yep.
Oh, man, I think that's a really good place to wrap it up. We didn't even get into the Twitch stream or anything.
You sure?
So
you
before
don't want to talk about it?
Yeah, I do want to ask before we wrap up. Yeah. So how's your experience on Twitch been so far?
It's been great. I've slowly but surely made a small community. I'm not like a partner yet or anything like
Katie
that, but
is.
I was able. I know.
Oh,
I know.
How did that happen? I don't actually know.
But good on you. Good on you, because that's hard to do, man. Getting those like 70 concurrent viewers like all the time, that's fantastic. Good for you. So like I haven't been able to reach that yet, but I am affiliate, which is cool. I'm really enjoying that. And it's good for me because the truth of the matter is, in between shows is where I'm really going to be able to fly with Twitch, right? Because I started it kind of late. I was like, oh, I'll start this. I've only got a month to Orville. I'm like, wait a second, that's so stupid. Why didn't I start this? Like, because the time in between seasons, I was doing very little. There's the truth. Not out of choice. Like, I just didn't get a lot of work. I didn't get a lot of freelance, because sometimes that's just the way it is. You hit dry spells. And that's the problem with the entertainment business, is that it's not 9 to 5. A lot of people are like, oh, you must love it. You got an easy job. It's like, it's like, you get paid so much. It's like, when I get paid. Like, and then the other time I'm like, let's make sure we don't, like, can we just eat air? Can we do that tonight? Like, so it's like this weird juggling act again. So, but I had all that time, and I really was kicking myself after like starting Twitch, like only a month or two before starting Orville again. I was like, man, I really should have started this earlier. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that in between seasons, I can really dive into it. I'm actually doing TwitchCon this year, 2019. I'll be there. I'll be in Artist Alley. I'll be booth 21. So
I'll come find you. And
me.
say hi.
Yeah, I'll have prints. I'm going to be doing a little art book too and stuff like that. So, but come by. We'll give you some free stuff. You don't have to pay for anything. For sure.
I'll pay for it.
Well, you'll get a discount. Maybe you'll get it at cost or something. Okay. But my point is that I think Twitch is great because, again, it's, for me, whether it's Twitch, whether it's Mixer, whatever it is, it's a way for people to have their own channels, right? It's a way to, I mean, people are like, yeah, that's what it is. It's your own channel. But again, growing up in the 80s and 90s and anyone before that too, that's a big deal though. It's a massive deal to be able to broadcast yourself.
It is.
That was never an option.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool, man. Being able to actually like say, hey, this is me. This is my thing. Want to support me? And not for free. Like I am giving content. That's great. I love being a content creator because I already am a content creator.
Yeah.
So being able to have my own way of doing it, my own way of reaching out in the world and being able to work from home too while doing that so I can spend time with my kid and my family. Like, that's so cool, man. I think we're living in an amazing age for that. Even though we're living in the, like, again, the bad timeline, we've got some cool things. So I love Twitch. I think Twitch is great. And I think you got to be careful, right? I mean, there is things you got to, keep in mind with Twitch and live streaming and all that stuff because it can be manipulated against you if you're not careful and all that fun stuff. But it's worth the risk as long as you keep your mind about you, I think.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yay, Twitch.
Well, Lex, this has been absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much
for
coming on the show. Please plug your Twitch channel, social medias, anything you want. Get it all out there.
Do you guys have a little descriptor for your podcast? Like a little description and all that fun stuff?
Yeah.
That goes along with your show? Do you mind if you just throw the
links in? I can do that too,
the links in there. Basically, what you guys are looking for is good-natured villain. That's my tag on everything on social media. So on Twitch, on Twitter, on Instagram, and that's spelt in a very strange way because
we'll link it all in the show notes.
So look for the link there because I'm an artiste, but it's also because it just got too long. I couldn't actually write it. But basically, my online persona is good-natured villain. And some people are like, why do you call yourself the good-natured villain? Because honestly, it's not just me. I think we're all good-natured villains. So let me just get into this really quick and I'll let you go.
Do it, please. I'd love to hear it.
Basically, we're human beings, right?
Sure.
Whether or not you do everything you can to be a good person and not affect the planet, just because you're born, you have a bad footprint. Right? And I think a lot of us at heart are good people. I really do believe that. I think a majority of people are born with from a mother, and they care about people and they don't want to see people get hurt and they do want the best for the majority, right? I'm a bit of an optimist that way. I believe that a lot of people feel that way, right? They don't want to see other people get hurt, right? There are some people that do, but we won't get into that. But at the same time, just by existing, the human race has done so much damage. And even just by continuing to exist, we're going to just do so much damage that we're just good-natured villains at heart, man. And we got no way around that. So that's what we're all good-natured villains.
It's a good way to put it.
So that's me being all philosophical. Anyways, I'm going to shut up. So
go follow him everywhere.
Go follow me. Follow me to doom.
Quantum Drive is a production of The Geek Generation. If you like this show, be sure to check out our other podcasts on the Geek Generation Network at thegeekgeneration.com.
If you'd like to support the show and get access to exclusive bonus podcasts along with other perks, you can visit our Patreon campaign at thegeekgeneration.com/support.
You can follow Quantum Drive on Twitter at Quantum Drive Pod and me at TheRobLogan.
You can follow me on Twitter at PlayKatiePlay and on Twitch at Katie Peters Plays, and Katie is spelled Katie.
Please rate the show and write a review on Apple Podcasts. If you do, we may read your review on an upcoming episode.
Finally, questions and comments can be sent to quantumdrive@thegeekgeneration.com.
We're out of here for now, but we'll see you soon in
the future.